Keeper of the Lost Cities. EXILE by Shannon Messenger. Chapter 6. Sophie fidgeted with the satin sash of her emerald green dress and wondered for the 10th time if she should change. It felt wrong to visit a cemetery in something other than black, but Adeline had told her the tradition was to wear green, the color of life. "You look beautiful," Grady said as he peeked his head around the door to her bedroom. She smiled. "You don't look too bad yourself." "Thanks, but I truly hate these things." He tugged at his green velvet cloak as he stepped into her room. "Whoever decided we should wear capes was an idiot." He didn't have to tell her. She'd hated the capes from the moment she'd seen her ridiculous school uniform with its stupid elbow-length monstrosity. But capes were the mark of the nobility. And even though Grady and Adeline had tried to separate themselves from that life, the council would never let Grady fully resign. His ability as a mesmer was too rare and important. "Need help with yours?" Grady offered. Sophie nodded, and he grabbed the silky green cape from where she'd left it on her bed. Grady draped it across her shoulders and gathered the ends at the base of her neck. She reached for the blue halcyon clasp she used for school, but Grady stopped her, holding out a yellow diamond-encrusted eagle, soaring with a ruby rose in its talons, identical to the brooch securing his own cape. "The Reuven crest," Sophie whispered as he pinned it through the thin fabric. Foxfire uniform bore the same seal over her heart, identifying her as part of Grady and Adeline's family. But having him give her the clasp, especially considering the day, made her feel choked up. Grady cleared his throat. "Are you sure you want to?" "I'm sure." They'd been doing this for 16 years. She wasn't going to let them do it alone anymore, unless... "Do you not want me to go?" "We always want you with us, Sophie. I'm just afraid you don't realize how hard this will be." She reached for his hand, twining the fingers together. "I know, but we're family, right?" "We definitely are." He pulled her in for a hug, stroking her hair as he whispered, "I love you." "I love you too." She thought about adding Dad at the end, but the words stuck to her tongue. "I guess we should probably get going. I've already informed Sando that he's not coming with us." "He's not?" "Only elves are allowed near the Wanderlings. Even the counselors leave their bodyguards behind. So he's agreed to entrust you to our care for the next few hours." "Whoa! I can't believe you got him to agree to that." He protested a lot, but I had reminded him of what I can do. The seriousness of a stone gave Sophie chills. She rarely thought about what being a mesmer really meant for Grady, but total mind control was definitely a powerful thing. "And I agreed to carry this in case I lose my focus." Yeah, I did quietly, removing a small silver weapon from an inner pocket of his cloak. Sophie felt all the blood drain from her face. "Where did you get a meddler?" She'd never forget the way Dex had collapsed to the ground, paralyzed and seizing up after the kidnappers blasted him with one. Looking at the palm-sized gadget now, it was hard to imagine so much evil coming from a sleek carved handle connected to a triangle of silver with a single button in the center. She hated seeing it in Grady's hand. Grady shoved it back into his cloak. "The council insisted I keep one in the house as a last resort. Don't worry, I have no plans of using it." She hoped not. Then again, no one ever planned to be attacked. "Where's Adeline?" she asked, changing the subject before she could relieve any more nightmares. Shadows seeped into his features, and he closed his eyes a second longer than a blink. "Oh, I'll get her," Sophie offered. Grady didn't protest as she moved past him and headed down the curved staircase to the second floor. Even with the sunlight streaming through the crystal walls, the hallway leading left seemed to be shrouded in gloom. Sophie hurried to the end, where there were 3 narrow doors that were always closed. The center door was slightly ajar. "Edeline," Sophie whispered, not wanting to startle her as she tiptoed into the quiet bedroom. Sophie had only been in this room once, in all the months she'd lived here, and only by accident, but it looked exactly the same. She suspected it had been exactly the same for the last 16 years, though the room felt dim and dusty, like someone desperately needed to flick on the crystal chandeliers or pull back the faded lacy curtains and let in some light. Edeline didn't say a word as Sophie crossed the room, across the soft carpet, and sat next to her on the edge of the canopied bed. "Grady and I are ready whenever you are." Sophie's voice echoed through the room. Edeline swallowed as she nodded, then turned to face Sophie. She sucked in a breath when she spotted the brooch. "I don't have to wear it if—" "No." Edeline stopped her from unfastening it. "You should wear it. I'm sorry. It just surprised me because it makes you look even more like her." The words were strange and prickly things, and Sophie never knew what to do when Edeline said them. She knew Edeline meant them as a compliment, but Sophie couldn't help wishing that she didn't have to be the shadow of someone else, or worrying that the similarity had anything to do with why they adopted her. She followed Edeline's gaze to the framed photo on the desk across the room. A carefree Grady and Edeline stood with their arms round a slender blonde girl, Jolie, when she was about Sophie's age. Jolie had Grady's light hair and Edeline's bright turquoise eyes. She was striking and graceful and smiling, with rosy cheeks and gleaming white teeth. Sophie walked over to the floor-length dressing mirror in the corner and tried to see the resemblance. "My goodness, you have strange eyes," a high-pitched voice announced. Sophie whipped round. "Who's that?" "Vertina." Edeline gave a sad smile and made her way over to Sophie. "I guess you've never seen a spectral mirror before." Sophie turned back to the mirror, gasping when she noticed a tiny face in the upper left side. A girl with shining black hair, pale skin, and sapphire blue eyes. She looked like she was about 15, and she had the snotty, "I am older and cooler than you" glare that Sophie had seen a lot of back in the human world when she was stuck as the 12-year-old high school senior. "What is it?" Sophie whispered. "It?" the tiny girl snapped, her pretty face twisting into a scowl. "Who are you calling it? You're the one with the freaky eyes." "Hey!" Sophie still wasn't totally comfortable being the only elf with brown eyes, but she wasn't about to let some mirror girl insult her. Now, Vertina," Edeline said, placing a hand on Sophie's shoulder. "That was out of line." "Sorry." She didn't sound like she meant it, though. Sophie reached up and touched Vertina's face, half expecting it to feel like warm skin. All she felt was smooth, cold glass. "Get your smudgy fingers away from me!" Vertina huffed, ducking under Sophie's hand. "It's bad enough that I'm up here alone all the time, gathering dust like some common piece of furniture." She turned her tiny face away, her glassy eyes staring somewhere beyond them as she whispered, "I miss Jolie." Me too, Adeline said, tears streaming down her cheeks. Sophie pulled Adeline back, and when they were far enough from the glass for their reflection to disappear, Vertina vanished. What was that thing? It took Adeline a second to answer. Spectral mirrors help you get dressed or style your hair. Is it alive? Just a clever bit of programming. A novelty that never caught on because people realized they didn't want the mirrors to tell them they looked tired or out of fashion. Jolie loved hers though. They became friends. She even used to come back to visit Vertina on her rest weekends from the elite towers. They were that close. Her voice broke again. Come on, Sophie said, leading her toward the door. Grady's waiting for us. Adeline wiped her eyes, casting one last glance of her shoulder at the now silent mirror before she followed Sophie out to the hall. They climbed the stairs at the 4th floor at a crawl. Adeline seemed in no hurry to get where they were going, and scaling the stairs was always a challenge for Sophie, especially in the low heels she decided to try. She was 13 now. Seemed like the time to switch to more mature footwear. If only she had the time if only she had the balance to pull them off. She tripped so badly on the last step that she would have fallen if it weren't for Grady's quick reflexes. Still getting the hang of walking her? He teased as he caught her with his free arm. His other hand held a red satchel which he handed to Adeline. Hey, I can't be perfect at everything, she retorted with a smile. True enough. Grady held her hand as she climbed into the platform under the glittering chandelier in the center of the cupola. 500 intricately faceted crystals hung individually from silver cords, forming a sparkling sphere. The Leap Master 500. Adeline fidgeted with the satchel she'd slung over her shoulder, and Grady stared at the ceiling, neither seeming ready to give the command. Sophie cleared her throat. Where exactly are we going? A few seconds passed before Grady whispered. The Wandering Woods. The Leap Master sprang to life, twisting until a single crystal lowered enough to catch the sunlight streaming through the windows. Nobody moved toward the beam that reflected to the ground. Sophie could imagine them shining like this every year. Too sad to step forward. But this year, she was there to help them. Slowly, gently, she pulled them into the light.